Marie-Louise Stenild, 7 marathons, 7 days, 7 continents. Here's what you'll learn. Typical diet advice doesn't always work. Marie-Louise tried to run a marathon using pasta as her only energy source, which is very carb rich, and it just killed her. Normally she eats a protein-rich diet with lots of vegetables, and that's what helps her finish marathons without feeling like death. You'll learn how to motivate yourself to go for a run when you don't feel like it. You'll learn the importance of taking full responsibility in the things that you decide to do, whether it's a small event or just your life in general. And you'll learn that cutting 15 minutes off your marathon time is not an easy feat, so you should definitely set realistic goals. Besides that, you'll hear Marie-Louise's story of how she ran the 7 marathons in 7 days on 7 continents. And it's a really cool story. I'm really glad that we can bring this to you. Enjoy.
Okay. Today we're talking to Marie-Louise Stenild, and I'm going to read a little blurb off your website here. I thought this was a good way to introduce the interview. For the past 5 years, the idea to run 7 marathons in 7 days on 7 different continents has been at the back of my mind. All because I, on a raining autumn day, went to hear Sir Ranulph Fiennes speak and was completely taken aback by his achievements. The likelihood of me crossing the South Pole anytime soon is probably rather slim, but one thing which occurred to me during the speech was that, as I love running, I could attempt to be the first woman in the world to run 7 marathons in 7 days on 7 different continents. And you did. So.
Indeed.
What was it that changed in you 5 years ago when listening to Sir Ranulph Fiennes give that talk?
Well, I always wanted, since I was a child, I always wanted to do something, to be the first to do something. But it's quite difficult to, come up with something to be the first. Mm-hmm. So when I went to the talk with Sir Ranulph Fiennes, and he was talking about motivation and everything, he's an excellent speaker. And when he's the first man to have run 7 marathons in 7 days on 7 different continents, something just clicked, and I thought, well, that's what I want to do. I want to be the first woman to do it. So that's sort of the main motivator for it.
Okay. And what was your training history like prior to, setting out to do this?
Well, I always been a very keen runner, and I've always run a lot. I've used it when I did my studies, because I studied law, so you spend a lot of hours reading and studying. So I started using it as a way of de-stressing and getting some fresh air and clear my head. Mm-hmm. And so I've been running about 80K per week since I was early 20s. And I think that's one of the main things that it really helped me, because I have lots of muscle memory. Mm-hmm. So when I started the training for the 7 marathons, I sort of had a good basis already.
And had you ran marathons prior to that as well?
Yeah, I've done a few marathons. I've done lots and lots of half marathons. Mm-hmm. And it's only within the past 5 years that I've started to do marathons.
Okay. And what was your experience like running marathons? Like, did those crush you, or were you kind of confident that going into this you'd be okay doing 7 in a row?
The thing is, because I've done, for the past 10 years, I've done 3 runs every week. That's 20K. Mm-hmm. Because I used to run home from work. And so I and the thing is, I'm not a really fast runner, as you can probably see with the times that I've done. But I normally run a marathon in 4 hours. So it's still, I'm still pushing myself. Yeah. And I must admit, I've never felt that, oh my God, I'm not going to finish. I always had more energy I've not been completely dead when I finished a marathon. And that's why, my trainer said to me, you're not pushing yourself hard enough. So, so I've never had, the thing about running and going for a long distance doesn't really scare me. It's sort of, I enjoy it.
What does scare you? Is there anything that does scare you as far as running?
Well, I'm climbing a mountain in July, so that might push my boundaries a bit.
Oh, okay. What do you think of these ultra marathons where it's like 50 miles, 100 miles? Is that something you'd ever think of doing?
Yeah, I really like to do, I don't know if you're familiar with the Comrades in South Africa.
No, I haven't heard of that. It's
89 kilometers.
Okay.
And it's near Durban. And I really would like to do that. I would like to try and do, an ultra marathon to see if I can do that. Because the thing is, I really feel confident in doing the marathon distance. And I don't feel like, the day after I'm not I walk perfectly. I'm not completely shattered or anything. So, it would be interesting to see if I could do an ultra marathon.
Yeah. Do you follow? Go ahead.
No. So I had looked into, there's there's the desert marathons, and I would like to one day to do Marathon des Sables, but it's just so difficult to get in. So they'll have to wait a bit.
Okay. Do you follow any specific dietary principles or a specific diet that you feel, helps you recover or gives you energy while you run? Anything like that?
Yeah, I have a very protein-rich diet. I eat lots of chicken and turkey and fish. My main protein is fish, and a bit of egg as well. Okay. And then I have like dairy products as well. But I've never been. The only time I say I had a hard time with a marathon was when I was running Luxembourg Marathon with some friends, and they kind of made food for me, and it was all pasta and lots of carbs. And that's the only time I had a really hard time. I felt it when I came to about 35. I just had no energy.
Really?
So for me, having a carb-rich diet and doing a marathon just doesn't work for me.
So you need that protein beforehand?
Yeah. So the evening before I always have, fish or chicken or something. Having lots of carbs, but I've never been very good with carbs. That's probably why it doesn't really work for me. Because I know people eat lots of pasta and rice and everything before they do marathons or long runs, but it doesn't work for me.
Okay, that's interesting. Well, there's a lot of people are going towards low carb diets today, so it might be something in there.
Yeah, it's not because I'm sort of thinking people doing the these various diets where you're cutting out completely carbs and everything. I have porridge every morning, so it's not like so I do get some, but it's just that I just find having too much rice and pasta is just not working for me. Well, it doesn't really work for my stomach, so I think that's why I've sort of focused more on doing like protein and then lots of vegetables as well.
Okay. Motivation. What motivates you to run and train in general? I guess it was like a stress relief back when you were in law school.
Yeah, it's just that, I feel that that's my time. Nobody can ask me to do anything or anything. And it's just a way for me to clear my thoughts. I put on some music and I go for a long run and I completely disappear for 2 hours. I just think about, everything. But the thing is now there's another motivator for me. I would really like to do a marathon sub 4 hours. So I'm sort of doing lots of interval training now. So that's a completely different way for me to train, because I'm just used to putting on a pair of shoes and then go for a long run. But now it's much more about, running to times and, speed and so on. So there's a bit of a difference for me to do that.
Okay.
So it's just that. But, the thing is, it doesn't, whether it's raining or it's cold or it's sunny, I'll still go out for a run because I just feel like a new person when I come back from a run. I just completely clear my thoughts and full of energy and everything.
Do you ever have times where you you want to do a run in the morning, like the day before you're like, maybe I'll go for a run in the morning, but the morning comes and you're comfy in bed or whatever it may be and you just don't feel like running? How do you jump over that hurdle?
Well, because I know that I feel so much better, and I do, of course, if I look out and I see that it's pouring down with rain and you're thinking, oh, I have to go for a run. But then, I just know that there's a few times, of course, I've skipped and I'm saying like, oh, no, I'm going to take another hour in bed or something. But then I just feel absolutely rubbish. I just don't have that energy for the day. And that's what motivates me, or that's what gets me out of bed, is that I know I just feel so much better when I've done it. So that's the key for me. But I have to say, it's not like I run every day. I also do other sports, like I do spinning or something. But it's just that do some kind of exercise in the morning really does help me.
On your website, you mentioned that your training was designed by Juan Pablo Garcia, a personal trainer that specialized in running, who has a long track record with long-distance running and had participated in marathons himself. Why did you pick Juan, and how did you reach out to him?
Well, it's quite a funny story, actually, because I moved and I had to, where I lived, there's a gym in the basement. It's a really nice gym. And so I went down and I joined, and they said, oh, you can have some free personal training lessons. when you're joining? And I was like, oh, okay, well, you know, it's for free, so I'll go ahead and take them. And then Juan called me up and said, you know, do you want to have your training lessons? And I said, yeah, okay. And then, you know, he asked questions about what is your training history and everything. And he said, oh, do you have any goals? And I said to him, like, really, like, well, I would like to run 7 marathons in 7 days in 7 different continents. And he's the first one who didn't laugh.
Yeah.
He just said to me, well, that means you have to do a lot of training. And he's the first one that actually took it seriously. He said, you know, it's a tough thing to do, but, you know, if you train properly and you're committed, we can do it. And that really, from that moment on, I just knew, well, you know, that's sort of when I decided, okay, I'm going to do it. And we then found a time to, you know, when it's best, because I had to consider the weather as well, because I had to run in some pretty hot countries. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to run at the time of year when it was most comfortable for me. So so we decided, you know, a time, you know, sort of the timing for doing the 7 marathons. And then I did a test where I ran 3 marathons in 3 weeks, like 3 official marathons, and it went really well. And then we started the core training of the running.
And what was that training like for you?
Well, it's like, if you consider, like, it's a valley training. I don't know if you. So I had like 4 weeks where I did up to 130k a week. Then I had 4 weeks where I went on a lower level, like up to 80 kilometers a week. Then I went back up to 130 for 4 weeks, and then back down, and then back up, and then sort of he decided I would peak that week that I was doing the 7 marathons, and it really worked. Mm-hmm. He did it spot on.
Were there any points in your training where you felt like, oh, this may be too much, or am I not recovering fast enough, or did you feel pretty spot on?
I did. No, the thing is, you know, I did have, because I was working full time whilst I was doing the training. Mm-hmm. And I remember there was one evening, I was sitting at 9 o'clock at night in the office, knowing that I had to do 30k run. And I said to myself, oh, you know, I'm just going to skip it and go home. And then I said, no, I can't really, because, you know, if I can't even go running for the training for 30k, how am I going to do the 7 marathons? So there was only once in my training I had that thought, and I thought to myself, no, if you can't do the training, you're not going to achieve the goal. So that really kept me going the whole time, you know, just saying that, you know, if you can't put in the hours, you know, you're not going to succeed. Mm-hmm. But I did have, you know, of course I did, but I had 2 days a week where I didn't do any running. So the weeks where I did the 130k, you know, I had 3 days of 30k runs. And what we did is that we did lots of differences. Like sometimes I would run 30k in the evening and then 30k in the morning to see how I would react. And then, of course, I would then also sometimes have, like, I'll be running in the morning of one day and then I'll be running in the evening the next day. So I have as much recovery as possible between the runs.
Okay.
So it's lots of, you know, testing myself by seeing, you know, sort of stressing the body and doing the runs really close and then far away, and then having the days of complete rest as well. And I did some core training as well for, you know, for the upper body and so on as well.
Okay. You received quite a bit of news coverage. Did that add on any pressure to how you were already feeling before the
run? One thing that's very important for me from the beginning was that I took control of the whole thing myself. Mm-hmm. Because I booked the tickets. I found the route myself. Oh, can you see me? Okay.
Yeah, I see you. Did I freeze there?
Is it okay?
Yeah, I see you.
So for me, it was quite important to sort of control the whole process myself, because in that way, if I succeeded, you know, it was a victory for me. Mm-hmm. And if I failed, it would be my own fault. I couldn't blame anyone. So sort of like the victory would be bigger, and also the failure would probably be bigger. So I, you know, sort of took control of the whole process, and then by chance, I was at a birthday party where somebody who writes for a magazine, she said, oh, I have a friend of mine who's sort of wants to start writing. This might be something for her, a good thing for her to pitch, you know, if, you know, to see, you know, somebody running 7 marathons. And by chance, she has been working in marketing for many years. So she had all the, she had the contacts, she had the channels, how to put it out to a wider audience that, look, somebody is trying to do this, and this is how I got some of the sponsors as well. And she also contacted various newspapers and so on. Mm-hmm. But one thing that, because I did have quite a lot of news coverage in Denmark as well, and that was by chance, sort of, I think somebody picked up on it, or it was very random. And they came over here when I did when I've had the last marathon in London. They came and filmed and did a story on the news about it. So and they also followed me. The Danish radio followed me during the 7 days. So I did I would call home or call them and we would do an interview. And because of the time difference, it couldn't really be live. I think there's one time it was live on radio, but otherwise, they recorded it. So, and it's just amazing because the news coverage gave me so much energy and so much support whilst I was doing the 7 marathons. I had emails from people that I've never heard of, I've never met, just saying that, what you're doing is amazing. We heard about you in the radio or something. And there's a gentleman from Denmark who 5 years ago was paralyzed from his upper body and down, and he was told that you're never going to be able to walk again. Well, he's recovered, and he came over and ran the last marathon with me. Oh, so that was really that was amazing.
Yeah.
So I think that, and then sort of some of the news coverage was also because I contacted different running clubs, and some of them, they then wanted, is it okay if we contact a news station, and because we think it's an amazing thing you're doing. And I said, well, you're doing this for me, you're helping me, so whatever you want me to do to help you, please do so.
Mm-hmm. Okay, can you take us through the entire experience itself, and especially touching on the mental side of it? Because I noted in the BBC interview that you said the mental side was one of the tougher sides of it.
Yeah, the thing is, I must admit, one of the things that so you want me from when I did the 7 days, or?
Yeah, the actual 7-day experience.
Yeah. So when I started on the Falklands, and I must admit, when I landed late in the evening, I almost didn't land because it was really windy. Mm-hmm. So when I got up in the morning and I had to do the first marathon, I looked in the mirror and I remember thinking to myself, oh my God, what have you done? What is it that you're supposed to do? So I went out, lots of people, because it was on a Saturday, the local running club, there's lots of people running with me. Mm-hmm. And one thing I hadn't considered before doing the 7 marathons was that, so I contacted different running clubs, and people really was so supportive, and what people did for me for those 7 days at the local running clubs was just, I could never expect it. If I expected 1%, I got 100%. People picked me up at the airport, took me back, supplied with food, drinks, everything. It was just really, really, unbelievable. But one thing I hadn't considered when I was doing the planning was that, I just wanted, people to run with me. They said, if anyone wants to run with me, that would be greatly appreciated. Mm-hmm. So when I did the marathon in the Falklands, there was somebody running with me who did the full marathon. And I thought, that's actually really nice, because then you're having somebody you can sort of rely on for the speed and so on.
Yep.
So when I'd done the one in the marathon in the Falklands, I then flew to Santiago in Chile, and I had a night's sleep. And the thing is, it was really odd, because I knew that was going to be the last time I would be able to sleep in a bed between the marathons, because I knew from then on it would only be on a plane. I'll either be on a plane or I'll be running. So did the run in Santiago on the Sunday morning. Felt really good, and I thought I was going to have more pain, but I was actually feeling quite well. So then took off to via Toronto, actually, to LA, mm-hmm. and that's when I thought, this is the first time, but I was lucky. I was flying economy, but I got to, I got 4 seats so I could lay down and get a bit of rest. And when I landed in Los Angeles, when I opened my mobile, I had 50 messages from friends and family, and that just gave me the kick. That support from people, you knew that, colleagues, it was just that mental, that support just gave me the booster. Mm-hmm. And I just thought, I can do this. So did the run, and then came to Sydney, which was a really long flight. And I didn't get enough food on the flight, because what happened after the run in LA, I completely lost my appetite. I just did not want any food. But I knew, of course, I needed food as well. So I must admit, from doing LA and then on to London, I pretty much lived off bananas and Coca-Cola, which is not you're supposed to do when you're doing sports. But that was sort of the only thing I could sort of stomach.
Yeah.
Then landing in Sydney, people you never met before, just standing there with open arms, taking time out of their busy schedule, and just giving you a big hug and say, what you're doing is amazing. We're so, pleased or honored to be part of what you're doing, and, you'll do good. So for me also in Sydney, when I'd done the halfway through the marathon, I also knew that I was halfway through my challenge. And that gave me another booster, because having I think the one in Santiago was probably, or the LA one was probably the toughest ones, because you just started and you're still thinking, there's still a long way to go. Mm-hmm. But as soon as I passed that halfway mark in Sydney, I just knew, I'm now counting down. I'm going on the way home. And then flew on to Singapore, where there was of all the marathons, the Singapore one was the toughest for me. First, I only had 7 hours rest between the 2 marathons. It was really, really hot and very, very humid. And it was also the slowest marathon for me. It was 5.5 hours I spent. But it was really, I could feel it a bit there. Then came to Cairo, and one of my knees started hurting halfway through Cairo. So I was like, but you still, you're having all the support and everything. And then finishing in Cairo, the adrenaline just went completely, as soon as I finished the marathon, I checked in at the airport. I was just so hyper, because I knew that I'm going home, and even if I'm, my legs are broken, I will finish this thing. I had a bit of a setback in Cairo because my flight got cancelled. So I had to rebook on another flight. So all the time that I planned on resting and taking it easy, I was running around trying to sort out getting another flight. Mm-hmm. And also because I had left already, with the stamp of the immigration and everything. And then landing in London and having my parents came over, family came over at the airport. And just having friends, and my trainer was there, and we ran started running the marathon. And I must admit, there's 2 times I cried whilst I was doing it. The first time was because my mom has just had a new knee replacement, mm-hmm. and the weather was awful in London, and I tried to get my parents to see me as many times as possible. And it didn't work out. So I was really concerned about, where are my parents? Because, they came all the way and I wanted them to be part of the experience. So I remember the second time I saw them, I said, forget about anything else, just get to the finishing line. And my mom, who could hardly walk, was just like, yes, sweetheart. Even if I have to run, I'll be there. So I got quite emotional. And then the second time was towards the end of the last marathon. I ran past my office. And this is on a Friday evening at 6 o'clock. And normally, I work in an investment firm. Normally at 4 o'clock on a Friday, it's completely empty. Mm-hmm. 70% of my colleagues were there standing outside cheering me. And a lot of them were running the last 5 kilometers with me. And the way that you get to on the route was like, I had to go around a corner and I could hear the cheering and the clapping. And that's really when I got slightly emotional there. And then at the finishing line, it was just unbelievable.
I think there's a video of that on YouTube as well that I was just checking out.
Yeah.
I believe it's the London finish line. So we'll put that up in this post too for people to see, because it's really cool.
Yeah.
So you raise money for charity, the Adam Rogers Trust. If someone was going to attempt to raise money for a charity doing a similar feat, what methods worked best for you and which didn't work as well?
Well, for me, this is a private charity. It's a friend of, as a former colleague of mine's private friends. He lost Adam some years ago, and for me it's very important that whatever because I was asking friends and colleagues and everything to donate to the charity. So for me it was very important that every single penny raised actually went to the charity, because I think a lot of other charities and everything, a lot of things goes to admin and everything. So for me it's very important that if I was to raise money for a charity, it had to be something that I felt a connection with. So one thing I did is that I contacted Fiona and Mark Rogers, and I went up, we met, because for me it was also important. One thing is for me to raise money for them, but there had to be a connection between us. Otherwise, and also they had to like me as well, because if they didn't like me, then there's really no, the support for them and, all that. But really, we had a connection straight away, and they're absolutely lovely people, and what they've done is just amazing. So for me, that's very important that there's something that I could stand by. But it is difficult, and I must admit, for me, I could probably have raised more money if I had been more outgoing, and but I work in most of the money is collected from my colleagues or friends and family. I think also because there was some mention in the newspaper, I think some people went sort of not through me, because I collected on giving money, Virgin giving money, or some what's it called? Virgin giving money. So I used them as the base of collecting the money.
Okay.
So. But it is, I think, I raised, an okay amount, but I think, other people have raised, much more money, but then you also have to go out and you have to make, ask people to donate. And me, I decided, I'm not a very, for me, I'm not a person who goes out and, ask for a lot of money. I sort of just send it around to the people I know. Mm-hmm. So for me, it was very important that also I paid for everything myself. So whatever was collected went to the charity. I paid everything, the flights, the run, and everything. I paid myself.
If someone else was interested in completing a similar feat, what advice would you give to them?
One thing, you really have to make sure that are you willing to put in the training? Because the training is really hard work, and also you have to, if you mentally can do it, because if of course I had pain, but also I had pain in my legs and everything whilst I was doing the run, but so you have to sort of be strong and say that even though it's it's painful, are you willing to keep going? So I think you definitely have to be committed, because if you don't put in the training, you're not going to be able to do it. Okay. But I must say, when I started, the adrenaline starts as well, and it does carry you along a long way, having the adrenaline throughout the 7 days.
I heard you mention something on the BBC radio show about I think it was Compix. Some sort of compression thing that assisted in recovery. We just lost power in our house. Good thing we've got a laptop here. Actually, the internet went down.
Hi.
Hey, I'm sorry. The power went out, and then the internet, our internet dropped out. Okay, I see you there. I might be a little choppier. I'm on my 3G iPhone connection now.
Okay.
Okay. But I just had one last question for you. what are you working on now and in the future? Like, what are you planning towards? I believe we talked a little bit about that at the beginning, but just to reiterate here.
No, so when I finished 7 marathons, an old friend of mine wrote to me shortly afterwards saying that, are you not done with the running soon? Why don't you? Are you not about to? Shouldn't you climb a mountain one day? And I wrote to him, that'll be, that's a good idea. And about a month ago, he wrote to me if I wanted to climb Stop Kangri in northern India this summer. And I decided to do that. So that's the next challenge, because that's completely different. Yeah. One thing is for me to do the running. Another thing is for me to climb. And it's not technically difficult, but it's going to be mentally a challenge, because it's in 6,200 meters is the top. So you're going to be having battle with altitude and so on. And that's one thing that, because we had a long chat, because he's experienced and I'm not experienced. I've once went hiking in the Himalayas many years ago, and I've done a little bit of hiking, but I've never done anything where you actually have to climb, and we have to wear clampons. What do you call it? Clampons? You have to walk on
carabiners things.
Yeah, on your shoes underneath, like ice pikes.
Oh,
was it
with the ice picks on them?
Yeah.
Wow.
And okay. So I've never done that. So for me, it was also important that and he said for him, it was important that I actually mentally thought I could do it, and I think I could do it because I do. That's one thing I have a very hard time of giving up. And I think that's one thing that helped me as well when I did the 7 marathons, is that I just can't give up. Like I said, failure is not an option, because if I want to do something, I'm quite determined and I will succeed. I will finish it. So that's one of the strongest thing. And otherwise, so I'll do that, and I'm training for a marathon in May where I want to go under sub 4 hours. So I'm training for about 3:45. So
okay, cool.
It sounded, a lot of people say like, well, it's only 15 minutes. That's not very much, but it is. When you're running a marathon, you have to cut off 15 minutes of your best time. It's a big difference, especially when I'm a very comfortable runner. Like, I'm running at a comfortable pace. So for me, it's a challenge for me to get up to the, do the interval and get at a higher speed. So.
And the last thing I had asked actually got cut off, and that was about, I believe, the Calm Picks.
Yeah.
Yeah. What were those like, and did they help you out, do you feel?
Yeah, they did. I got it whilst I was doing the training, and I must admit I was very, I didn't really, they sponsored me, and I was like, okay, they asked me if I wanted to try it, and I said, well, there's no harm. I didn't really believe in it. I didn't quite, you put a little bit of, you put something on your legs and they give you electric shocks and it should help you. So I thought, well, I'll give it a go, and then, we can see what happens. So I went for a run and put them on, and I felt fine, and, there's nothing. And then, so I did that a few times, and then I thought, okay, I wonder if I don't do it afterwards, what's going to happen. So I went for a 30K run, didn't do the complex afterwards. It's about a half, what's it called? It's a cycle of about 10 to 20 minutes. You sit and they give you electric shocks. So what it does is speed up the recovery. So it just, you sort of give a message to your legs or your body saying like recover, recover, recovery. And so I'd done the 30K, didn't use the complex, and I could feel it the day after.
Okay.
So I went, did another run, put on the complex, and felt fine. So then I was convinced that, it is going to help me. So I was quite diligent. And every time I've done a marathon, whilst I did the 7 marathons, I put on the recovery mode. So I did that. People did look at me at the airport having all these tubes sticking out everywhere, but, it did help.
Okay, cool.
So it helped me not seizing up or anything. So I know a lot of sports people use it. I think it's from Austria, or it comes from there, and it's much more used in continental Europe. I don't know if it's very well known in America or Canada, But people also use it a lot for if you've had surgery on your legs or something, you get it as well. So a lot of physiotherapists in Europe, continental Europe, they use it a lot.
Okay. How do you spell that?
It's COMPEX.
PEX?
Yeah.
Okay, Compex.
Yeah.
Okay, great. We'll look into those. All right, Marie-Louise, thank you so much for talking to us.
You're welcome. It's been a pleasure
talking with you.
Yeah, no. It's definitely, the more you do it, the better. I didn't have a single blister during those 7 days.
Wow.
But one thing is very good, I always said, it's if you have very soft skin on your feet, so I have I think every 6 weeks I go and have my feet done, at a proper, not just as a beautician shop, but actually go to a proper feet clinic, and they cut off all the dead skin and everything. That really does help. I touch wood 9 out of 10 times when I'm running a marathon or anything, I don't have any blisters.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing.
What kind of shoes do you wear? Do you have any specific shoe you really like?
Aces.
Pardon me, sorry, you cut off there.
Aces.
Okay, yeah, I'm familiar with that company.
I find they are the best. Yeah.
Yeah.
I used Nike for many years, but then I used them for some years, and then I just started getting some problems with my knees. And then somebody told me that the way, because Nike Air, when you run on the air, every time you land on your foot, it does like this. You get a double, it sort of brings your leg up, and that can actually give you quite problems with knees. Whereas if you have a gel, like with Asics, when you're landing, you're just sliding.
Yeah.
And I must admit, when I changed to Asics, it really made a big difference in my running and with my knees and everything.
Okay, maybe I'll have to try something like that out.
Yeah, and I must admit, I use the ones with the most support. If you're a very fast runner, people tend to run in really thin soles, and they just run. But for me, I want to feel like I'm running on cotton.
Yeah. Do you wear special socks as well?
Yeah, I wear compression socks.
Okay.
So if I run more than, I would say 10 kilometers, or even, I always wear compression socks when I go running. Okay. I think it's a habit that you get used to it, and I just find that you don't seize up as much if you run without. So
right on.
So that's actually.
I'll need to try some of those things. I've been running in what would probably be considered flats, and they have a leather insole with no cushioning, and then I run without socks too, so I think my skin is rubbing against it.
Yeah, they'll be burning your sole.
Yeah, it actually, that's how it feels afterwards. So.
Yeah, because leather is not very. It's really, because I know if you're walking in sandals in summer, I get that burning feeling, because the leather just really rubs against the skin, and it really makes it uncomfortable. But you should always wear socks. I think that's probably another thing.
Yeah.
But I did try. I don't know if you tried those. I don't understand how people can run in them. I tried the Vibrant 5 Fingers.
I've got a pair of those.
Oh my God. It was the most painful experience I've ever done. I went just for a 5K run.
Yeah.
And I was never ever again. I've been walking. I sometimes walk around in them in the summer. But the thing is, you have no cushion or no support. Every time you walk on something that's just a little bit uneven.
Yeah.
It's I couldn't go I don't understand how people can go hiking in the mountains in those. Do you just walk around in yours, or do you use it for sports? Or
I use them in the summer. I haven't been using them in the winter, because when I wear them, my feet get frozen, and I can't feel my feet anymore because there's no insulation or anything.
Yeah, no, exactly.
But when you were wearing them and you were running, were you if this is your heel, were you landing on the heel and rolling forward, or did you land on the toes?
Yeah, because that's what because I was told that if you run on the Vibrant, you have to run on your toes.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't do that. I tried, and I just ran as I normally do, with the the heel down and then do it. And
that would hurt.
It just awful. So, but I can't, because the same thing is sometimes if I'm at a beach or something, I decide, I'll try and go running barefoot. I just can't do it. Mm-hmm. I can't run on my forefoot. So that's what you're supposed to do.
What if you try to do a sprint, like run as fast as you can? Because usually what will happen when you sprint is you'll naturally kind of convert to the forefoot.
Yeah, that's right, because I do that if I run fast, and I think my problem is that I'm not a fast runner. I have a lot of endurance. I can run for a very, very long time. Mm-hmm. So that's one thing I'm trying at the moment to improve my to run faster and do lots of interval. And I can feel that when I come up to like 13-40 kilometers an hour. I feel that the way I put my foot down is completely different to when I'm just running at my comfortable pace completely.
Okay, that's interesting.
It does change the way, because you have to, when you run really quickly, that's when you start running on the front of your foot.
Yeah, there's a method of running called pose running as well. I'm not sure if you've heard of it, but essentially what it is it's like, if you're running like on your heels, you can be a bit more upright, but if you switch to the forefoot, you have to lean forward more.
Oh, yeah.
And especially if you're sprinting. But what pose running is kind of like you can run slower, but you lean forward anyways, and you let the gravity of like you falling forward kind of carry you along.
Oh, okay, that's interesting.
Instead of taking a big stride in front of you, it's more about like kicking your legs back off the ground and kind of just falling forward in a way.
I have seen some people that really it looks like when they're running, mm-hmm. that they're like almost kicking their bum.
Yes, that's probably pose.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's funny that there's so many different ways to do something that comes so natural to us, eh?
Yeah, because I think if you saw me when I run, can you see I run like this. I sort of swing out with my legs.
Okay.
So I think that's probably why, I don't know, but my theory is that's probably why it's more difficult for me to do, like, if I want to do really fast, because then I have to, I can't really do the swing, because that slow down the running.
Yeah.
But that's one thing, because I asked my trainer, do you want to do anything with my running? The way I run, and he said, well, I'm almost 40 or 30, no, I'm 37, but I've been running for so many years. I've been running for more than 20 years, and I've done lots of running. And he said, if we start changing the way that you run now, that's not going to work,
Yeah.
Because, I'm so used to running in my way, so I think if you want to correct anything, it's when you're at a very young age. Mm-hmm. So
yeah. Is it all right if we include this whole discussion on shoes and running in the interview?
Yeah, that's fine. Absolutely.
Okay,
fine.
Yeah, I think people will find that very interesting.
Yeah. No, that's fine.
Alrighty.
I hope you guys enjoyed that interview. If you have anyone you know who you think would be good for an interview here on Body Hack, my email is spencer@bodyhack.com. Go ahead and send me one. And of course, if you didn't watch, listen, or read this interview on Body Hack, you can check out our website for more interviews at bodyhack.com and click on the link to the blog. Until next time, see you later.